Hey, I'm Colin Weston with ModGolf Live. Thank you for joining us on this Monday. It's Monday morning for me. Just a bit. Actually, no, it's noontime. It's lunchtime. Usually we do this at 9 a.m. That's what threw me off here. 1 second. There we go. Shut that down. So welcome. So today I'm really excited. This is our Ryder Cup preview, and we're going to do this a little bit different as I've been promoting here. Hopefully you've all seen this already. Do we have Bryson on today? Do we have Rory? No. Do we want them on? Absolutely not, because we have the BethPage Black insider, and that is Jason Firestein, who, as Jason will come on here, he lives a 15-minute drive from BethPage. He has played the course almost 800 times as BethPage Black. Forget about the other 4 courses that they have there. Since 1982, and he has so many stories to share with us, so many insights that I'm already getting super excited about this. So this is what we're doing today here on ModGolf Live. So yeah, Ryder Cup 2025 preview show. But before we get started here, as we always do, we're going to do the Monday morning musings. I guess I should have called this the Monday afternoon musings. I know that doesn't quite roll off the tongue quite as well there with the alliteration, but that's where we are. So one thing I wanted to mention is we just launched season 18 of the ModGolf podcast, which we've been doing now since 2017, over 200 episodes. And yeah, really excited. We got another 12 episodes for the remainder of 2025. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to any of those yet, we've got such diverse guests there, entrepreneurs and innovators in the golf space that are helping shaping the future of golf. So that's what we're doing here. That's what we continue to do. And today is no exception with Jason that's coming on here in just a moment. But before we do that, hey, want to give a little shout out to our friends at Golf Genius Software, who have been supporting the ModGolf podcast and YouTube channel since 2019. And if you're not familiar with them, Golf Genius powers tournament management at over 10,000 private clubs, public courses, resorts, golf associations, and tours in over 60 countries now. So if you're a golf professional or course operator who wants to save time, deliver exceptional golfer experiences, and generate more revenue, who doesn't like make more money, check them out online at golfgenius.com. All right, there's the intro. Now it's time for the main event. And here he is. I will bring him on. Jason.
Hey, Colin. So excited to be here. So excited for the Ryder Cup. It's going to be an unbelievable week. I'm going to be there tomorrow. I'm going to be there Friday and Saturday. I got my Ryder Cup gear, got my volunteer hat on. It's going to be so much fun. This is 3 years in the waiting for us, and can't wait. Can't wait for it to begin.
Love it. Love it. Well, this is a live and interactive show. Obviously, we're going to be promoting this afterwards, running up until the Ryder Cup starting later this week. I noticed we got 5 people jumping on here. So, hey, don't be shy. If you've got a question for Jason, anything you want to know about BethPage Black or any of the courses there, he is the man, and we're getting into this today. So, yeah, don't be shy. In chat here on YouTube, please put your questions in there, and I will pull them up on screen for you to be part of the conversation here. Make this live and interactive. All right, Jason, we're going to have some fun here. We're going to do a couple of different segments here, but let's start out with your history. When we connected, almost a month ago, and said this would be a great show to have on ModGolf Live here with your insights. So what makes you the BethPage Black insider?
So Colin, I grew up only 10 minutes away from the golf course. And when my dad took up golf after his racket sports days were over, we had this golf course right in our backyard, and I quickly got hooked on the game. And since it was so close, after learning on a couple of the small 9-hole courses in the area, he decided it was time for me to go to BethPage. Now, this is way before BethPage Black, and for those of you who don't know, BethPage has five wonderful golf courses there. And I had an aptitude for the game, fortunately, and I started going there at the age of 12. Signed on for my high school golf team and played my first round in BethPage Black in 1982 as part of the local Nassau County Championship. And I remember a little about that round. I remember squeaking in with a 99, which I thought was great at the time. But that BethPage Black is nothing like you guys are going to see this coming week. That course was abused and used and in some of the worst shape you could possibly imagine. But it still had the bones of this amazing, amazing venue. And I'm so excited for everybody who hasn't seen it or who hasn't played it live to see it with the best players in the United States and Europe there this week.
Love this. Love this. Well, hey, like I said, it's a live and interactive show. I've got lots of questions to ask you here. We've got a couple of segments to do, but we already have our first question from our audience. So I want to make them the stars here. And we have Teddy Kukulis, who was on the ModGolf podcast a couple of months ago, just had a knee replacement. Amazing story there. And first time out shot, I believe, a 2 over par there, Teddy, if I remember correctly there in your first time back out. So here, I know you're going to get into this and do some reveals and secrets here. So maybe just tease Teddy a little bit here before we get into the meat of it later on here.
Well, Teddy, I'm in the knee replacement club as well, so that won't stop you from getting on Black if you ever want to try. So how do I get on? Well, Colin knows that's going to be one of the secrets we're going to talk about. But living really, really, really close by, of course, is one of the major benefits. And willingness to play as a single. That's one of the things you have to do. Your 3 buddies are not going to be able to get tee time so easily. But if you're willing to go as a single and you're willing to get up really, really, really early in the morning and be willing to play a lot of times in the afternoon. I've been known in the spring and the summer to go 4:30 in the morning and get a tee time for 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's always a few singles scrounging around. And it's one of my great joys to not only play it as a single, but to play with a lot of first timers. And Colin, I've played with people from all over the world. One guy I'll never forget, he flew in from Australia, got off the airplane and jumped on BethPage Black. And he started out excited. And by the time he got to the back 9, I think we were all carrying his equipment to the finish because he was absolutely done. I'm part of the reservation system, of course, as well. And I'm going to give you guys a few tips on how to get into that system. But that's the biggest thing. And there are times where I've gone there and I've been like, oh, no tee time. So I either just go home or I go back to work. And so for the last number of years, I've played it almost once a week and sometimes twice.
Got it. I'm going to pull this picture up here because you sent this one, and this ties into the reservation system. So what are we looking at here?
So this is the famous bakery ticket, and the bakery ticket gets its name from when you go on those long lines on a Saturday morning and you want to pick up your bagels or your cake and your cookies for later on, and they hand you a ticket. So the famous parking lot at BethPage, where you camp out if you're so desirous. When the course opens up in the morning, one of the workers comes by in his truck and he begins to hand out those tickets. And those tickets are your spot in line. And then when you go into the clubhouse and you go to where you pay, you look up on the screens and you pick what course you want to play and what time you want to play it. So everyone who plays golf in New York, who goes to BethPage, knows about the bakery tickets. And this past year for the Ryder Cup, Colin, it's been the most insane it's ever been. And not only have been people were waiting overnight, but people were waiting even 2 nights just for an opportunity to play. So my rounds got cut back a bit this year. I love the fact that the Ryder Cup's here, and I can't wait till they leave once it's over. We all want our golf course back.
I had the pleasure of being in Northern Ireland at Royal Portrush 2 months before the Open, and my friend who got me on the course, and she's a member, they had that exact same type of mentality. Happy that you're here, now get the hell out.
We want our course back.
Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. We're going to, at the end of the show, we're going to run through the holes, not all 18 of them, because that would, with your insight and knowledge, we can be here for hours, which is not a bad thing. We're going to run through some of the highlights, and you're going to choose 4 or 5 or 6 holes to comment on, both personally and how that's going to affect the Ryder Cup. But we're going to do this fun segment here, Jason, and that is 5 BethPage Black facts you probably don't know. So we're going to start with this. So hang on a second here. Let me pull up the questions here. So number 1 that you're going to comment, BethPage Black was not really designed by A.W. Tillinghast. Well, I certainly thought it was. That was my belief or the story out there. So there's more to this. So let us know what's going on there.
Sure. So BethPage Black is always called one of Tilly's courses. And in a sense, it is one of Tillinghast's course, but think of it more as inspired by Tillinghast than actually designed by Tillinghast. So BethPage, the first golf course at BethPage was called Lenox, and that's now what's the green course. And that was a private course. And in the 1930s, during the middle of the Great Depression, New York State acquired the land surrounding that golf course through an eminent domain process, as well as the Lenox Country Club, and started one of the most epic public works projects, certainly on Long Island, to create the expansive complex that you have right now. And Tillinghast was called in, but in reality, the course itself, and most people subscribe to this, was really designed by a man named Joseph Burbeck, who was already working at BethPage at the time.
Okay.
And Tillinghast was well known and in demand, and he was also broke, and he couldn't afford to devote all his time to one project. He would have to go around and do different things. So Joseph Burbeck is the one who's most, and no one really knows who he is because I don't believe he's designed anything else. Him, along with the thousands of workers who were summoned through the New Deal, created the massive complex at BethPage. And first it was the black course, and then the red course and the blue course. And Tillinghast had his hand on all of those courses, but really to the design of BethPage Black, you can really give it to Joseph Burbeck.
There we go. There we go. Okay, the second question is a fun one. Well, they're all fun, but I love this one. Is it true that Sam Snead once walked off the black course, or is that just a myth?
So the legend of BethPage Black being one of the hardest courses in the world, part of it comes from this story about Sam Snead. When the course first opened, BethPage Black hosted some exhibitions. I believe Babe Ruth played in an exhibition there, and Sam Snead and Walter Hagen also played in an exhibition there in around 1940. And legend has it that Sam Snead walked off the golf course at some point in time, claiming it was simply too hard. And the story is, and imagining these guys hitting with the equipment they had back then on the course it is today is hard to think about. The fourth hole, which is one of the most beautiful holes on the course, is a tremendous uphill par 5 to a 2-level fairway. But if you hit it over the green, it would fall off a cliff and you were done. And Snead supposedly hit one of his shots over that green and proclaimed it was too tough. But like lots of legends, some of these things are lost in time. It's a very popular story. I remember when I first went to BethPage, people saying, "You're playing black? That's the course Sam Snead walked off of." Whether that truly happened or not, all of those guys are sadly gone. But I have seen people walk off that golf course on more than one occasion. I have been tempted to walk off the golf course on more than one occasion, but you're so far away from the clubhouse on that course that you may as well just finish up playing, even if you're hacking it to pieces. And I've hacked it to pieces plenty, for sure.
And we're going to get into some of your good rounds and not so good rounds. As you mentioned, you don't have the exact tally, but you think it's close to 800 rounds you've played on black alone. So there's lots of stories there. But before I get into the third fun fact that you have here for BethPage Black, I want to expand on what you just said there, because it sounds like you really understand the history of this course, even since you first played it in 1982 up to now, and even before that. Have they changed the course routing or even the length? Like, forget about what they set it up for the Ryder Cup, but for the general public, how has the course changed, or has it changed at all over the last 4 decades?
Sure. So, well, of course, the biggest change is when the 2002 U.S. Open came there, and John Feinstein's book, The Open, talks a lot about the USGA coming in and the Reese Jones coming in and participating in I'm not going to call it a redesign so much as a refurbishing of the course. And a tremendous amount of money was put into the course, and the guts and those beautiful bones that were there were finally brought to life. And since that time, there have been a number of changes. They certainly lengthened the course, and I know from firsthand that there were tee boxes that were non-existent when I first started playing there, which are there now. And that was part, of course, of bringing the pros there to give it the length that the course needed. One of the nice changes you'll see for the Ryder Cup is the first hole, and we're going to talk about that. And they created a new tee box on that first hole that's going to make it under 400 yards, and dare I say, drivable for these guys, because that first hole is a dogleg right. It plays downhill, and in the air, it's going to be about 360, and you better believe Bryson and Rory are going to be bombing it off that first tee in the hopes of getting it on the green. The bunkering has been redone. The fairways in the course for the last couple of years have actually gotten a little wider.
Okay.
Part of it is for pace of play, but I think part of it is to perhaps cater for the U.S. players. And sometimes they're less than accuracy when compared to the European players.
Right.
And that's something that I've noticed, and you're going to see a lot of bombing and gouging this week for sure.
Definitely. Hey, I see we have quite a few people that have joined us here on the live show. So again, if you just joined us, if you have any questions here for Jason, our BethPage Black insider, played the course almost 800 times since 1982. Just put them in chat. Hey, you write it. I will bring it up on screen, just like we did earlier with our good friend Teddy. Okay, so we're going to bring up the next fun fact you have here. BethPage is the largest municipally owned golf facility in the U.S., but it's not actually located in the town of BethPage. So what's going on there?
So a lot of you folks probably now watching see that BethPage is located in a town called Farmingdale, New York.
Yeah.
There is a town called BethPage, and there is a town called Old BethPage. And BethPage is a large New York State park that not only has an amazing golf facility, but it has polo facilities, it has trails, and it has everything else. But BethPage itself is located in the town of Farmingdale. It is mostly in Nassau County here in New York. There is a small part of it that stretches into neighboring Suffolk County as well. But I'm so blessed. There are 5 golf courses at BethPage. And since it's owned by New York State and operated by New York State, it is, in fact, the largest municipally owned golf facility in the United States. And I am amazed at how well the government actually has run this facility, especially since the U.S. Open first came, and now the PGA, of course, the PGA Championship came. And Colin, I don't know if you saw the announcement this week, but the women are finally coming to BethPage Black in 2028 for the first LPGA major event, the KPMG. And I am so looking forward to see the best women in the world play their first major at BethPage, and we're getting the PGA Championship back in 2023.
Nice.
So we are so lucky here, but the luck is with everybody because anybody can play, and that's one of the great things that makes this. They call the U.S. Open the People's Open. This is the People's Ryder Cup, and this year, believe me, the people did come to see BethPage before this event.
Nice. Okay, right at the top of the show there, when Teddy asked his question about how do you manage to get on BethPage Black so many times here, you're going to expand on this because this is your 4th fun fact, more of your hack than a fun fact perhaps, but you're going to reveal your secrets of success. Even though you touched on them earlier, why don't you reinforce what you said already there to Teddy?
Sure. So, Colin, I've been coming so long. There have been so many different incarnations of how to get a tee time at BethPage Black. Before there was a parking lot, we used to line up in a straight line down the road that would go almost a half a mile in length, car after car after car. I remember as a teenager or as a young man coming back after a night on the town, perhaps, and my dad would be on that line, and I'd stumble up to him and sit in his car waiting for a chance to play. But for those folks there today, this is what you got to do. The first thing is you have to join the reservation system. Reservations are hard to come by for sure, but anyone can join the reservation system, and you might as well sign up. You just give them a few pieces of information, and that's step 1. Now they've changed this a bit. So for residents, we can book up to a week in advance. For non-residents, you guys can only book up until 2 days in advance. And BethPage this year instituted a 48-hour cancellation policy, as well as a $5 deposit. All of this is to give more people an opportunity to play. But that 48-hour window is so important. So if you have an idea of when you want to play, you have to start going on the website and refresh those tee times until one pops up. And they do pop up from time to time. Somebody said that of the times when they're originally booked, only about half of them stay with the original booking. So you have to be persistent. So that's secret number one. Secret number two is kind of what I touched on earlier. If you want to play it, go by yourself. You have a much better chance of getting an opening as a single than you do as a twosome, threesome, or foursome. When all the hype from the Ryder Cup dies down, and during the week especially, don't come on Monday because the course is closed on Monday unless it's a holiday. If you get there early in the morning, there's a good chance that you're going to get a tee time as a single in the afternoon. It's the thing I do most often. The campout experience is tremendous. Colin, I can't tell you how many times I've been in that parking lot and I've done the overnights, and it is some experience. It's like a crowd waiting for a rock concert. You know, it's so much camaraderie. And nowadays, people bring tents, they bring campers, they bring televisions, they play games. DoorDash delivers their food or liquor or whatever it may be. And it's an experience to certainly do that. And if you get a reservation at BethPage on any course, and I suggest that if you want to play black and you see an open reservation, just grab it. Because that reservation, if you go to the course, sometimes there are last-minute cancellations. In any reservation, you can switch to another course. So there have been times where I've had a reservation on the red, and I go to check in, and lo and behold, there's a time on the black. But you know, and persistence with the reservation system is key. And if you're going to try to get a reservation as an in-state New York resident, you have to be precise. You can't go, I would wonder what time I would like to play. And then you start looking at the times. They're all gone. So you have to hit the time you want as soon as those times pop up. Right. And Colin, those times are synced to whatever is on your phone. It is absolutely precise to internet time. So your computer may be a second or two behind internet time. You got to make sure that you go on time.is and sync your computer so you can be there precisely when the reservation opens, which is 7 p.m. 1 week before you want to play.
Well, there was a whole host of hacks there. So everybody can get a time now, or at least have a better chance. Increase their opportunity, their chances of getting a time.
Oh, and the other thing is go on social media, because on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter, or on X on Twitter, there are guys who you can see, like myself, who play a lot. Shoot out a message to one of those guys saying, "Hey, I'm interested in coming in. Can you get me on?" And I've been happy to share reservations that I've gotten with total strangers before, and I've even met some really, really nice people who I'm still friends with today, just by getting them on BethPage Black for them once in a lifetime experience. For me, a lifetime experience.
There we go. There you go. There's a great another reason why you should just ask sometimes. You don't ask, you don't get. You just never know where it's going to take you. Okay, last question in our 5 fun facts here. Maybe this one's a little bit controversial here. So why will Black most certainly never host the U.S. Open again? What's going on there?
Well, I got my U.S. Open hat from 2002 right there. And I got my U.S. Open hat from 2009 right there. But Colin, the next 25 U.S. Opens, none of them are scheduled for BethPage Black. There was some controversy for the folks who can remember when the U.S. Open was here. First of all, the weather was absolutely terrible, both in 2002 and in 2009. It had a Monday finish, and the USGA hates Monday finishes. There were problems with the tickets for people who got rained out Thursday. I was one of them in 2009. First, there were no refunds. Then there were partial refunds. But at the end of the day, I think the USGA just decided that BethPage wasn't going to be in its long-term fit, and they were going to stick to their more notable rotation of courses that they're in right now. But fortunately, the PGA came around, and the PGA booked the PGA Championship in 2019. But BethPage also hosted part of the FedEx Cup a number of years earlier. And another fun fact, the USGA and the PGA, they disagree on a lot of things, including sand. So they actually had to change all the sand from the U.S. Open sand to the PGA tournament sand to go by their standards versus the USGA standards. But I think my U.S. Open hats are going to be the two and only ones that we're ever going to see at BethPage.
It'll just leave more room for all those new PGA Championship hats that you're going to get over the next couple of years.
Exactly.
There we go. Okay, so again, got quite a few people here joining us, so thank you for that. And once again, don't be shy. You got any questions here for Jason, just fire them in chat and I will pull them up. Okay, so now we're going to do something fun here. I'm going to pull, let's see if I can do this here. Okay, there we go. We're not going to do all 18 holes, like I said, because with your depth of knowledge, we could be here for a couple hours, which would be amazing, but we want to keep this as tight as possible. So you wanted to start with hole number 1. So I'll just be the navigator here. So I'll start the video here and you give us some commentary.
So the hole number 1, of course, is the location where the sign is. And Colin, you can see right there that it says par 4, 430, but stop it right there because there is a new low tee box that they put into BethPage 2 years ago just for the Ryder Cup. And that tee box is going to be playing 397 yards. You can see it just to the right of the 18th green right there.
Right.
And you can see what a beautiful downhill par 4 this is with a dog leg right. And Colin, 397, drivable? You bet it's drivable for these guys. Rory McIlroy this week was taking it over those trees on the right-hand side. 350 to 360 yards will fly that green. And they want excitement. And they've built an amazing amphitheater around the 18th green and the first tee. That's going to make this a risk-reward opening hole, similar to how Whistling Straight was when Bryson DeChambeau drove that opening tee shot there. But for me, Colin, that you can see those bunkers that surround that green. Yep. If you're in that bunker on the right or on the left and that pin is in the front, that is an impossible bunker shot to get close. There is no green to work with. A good shot to the middle of the fairway leaves you a nice, easy approach and very much a birdie hole. But Colin, I've been so nervous on that front tee. I've seen so many men and women get on that first tee and they are literally shaking. We're not used to these guys shaking. They're going to be shaking on this tee when they tee off on this first hole today, this week. And risk reward is what the PGA has set this course up to be. And you're going to see as much excitement as any on an opening tee shot when you watch them tee off on Friday morning and this great championship begins.
Nice. So, okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot here. Like you said, you've almost played black almost 800 times here. So you said off camera that you've birdied every single hole at least once. And obviously you've had some big scores. So obviously you've birdied number 1 a couple of times, many times. Can you share with us here? It's going to be a bit self-deprecating. Can you share with us? Can you remember what is your biggest blow-up score on the first hole ever?
Oh.
And what happened?
So Colin, with age comes wisdom. One of the pieces of wisdom is learning how to put a ball in your pocket when it's time to put a ball in your pocket. When someone says, I got a 15 on that hole once, I'm like, you really made people wait for you to take 15 strokes on a golf hole? The group behind you must have been screaming bloody murder. But those trees, Colin, on the right, when the rough is up, they will just gobble your ball up and gobble anything that you want to get out of there. I know I've made at least a 9 or a 10 at some times. The bunkers are tough. The thing with BethPage, Colin, is, even for the average, when it's in season for the average player, the rough is just so thick and the fescue can be daunting. I was there on Saturday and it's not as high as it was for the Open or for the PGA Championship. Another suggestion that these guys really don't want to make this course as hard as they can make it. They're looking for aggressive play. They're looking for scoring. And I think you're going to see a lot of birdies, especially on the front 9 this week before the teeth of the course and the back 9 sets in.
Nice. Okay, before we move on to your next hole, we got Teddy jumping in again with another question. I like this one. So you should know, you're right there. Can you answer this one for Teddy?
Sure. So Black was shut down around the second week of August. And as I was telling Colin, in the weeks leading up to the shutdown where people were waiting for 2 days to play, a lot of the stands were in, and a lot of the concession areas and the VIP areas were in. And that experience of playing with all of that surrounding you really made BethPage an unbelievable destination for golfers from all over the world to come to before this Ryder Cup. They made alterations to some of the other courses. The green course, which is to the right of the black, they took out 2 holes of play. They made alterations to the red course, which is to the left of the black course. And the last of the courses shut down about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And we're hoping they open as soon as possible. But I'm a little nervous, Colin, because there's some rain in the forecast this week. And if it rains as much as they say it's going to rain, this course is going to take a beating.
Ugh. All right, let's keep moving on with some other holes. So what's the next one you want to give us some insight on?
So the next hole is the 3rd hole, and
Okay.
it's the first par 3 on the front 9. And Colin, it is just an absolutely daunting par 3 from the back tee. It is for those of us of my age, when we now play the white tees, it's a nice 150-ish yard par 3, a nice 9-iron, pitching wedge into the hole, 230 yards to this incredibly long but narrow green, with punishing trouble to the right and punishing trouble to the left as well. Bunkers that don't leave you with a lot of green to work with. That's going to be some tee shot for these guys. I expect birdies on 1 and birdies on 2, and I expect this hole to be the first hole where I see some miscues. And I think this is the spot where the first lead change may be taking place. It's just simply when you're back on that tee on the 230-yard away tee, and you see those bunkers and you see that ribbon of a green, you just wonder how in the world you're going to hit it. I'm excited to see this hole in play for these guys this week.
What is the closest in the almost 800 times you played it that you've come to a hole-in-one on number 3?
Oh, Colin, I've come so close. So the tips that the pros are playing from, those are never really open for the public unless you have a PGA Tour card.
Okay.
So for the blue tees, it typically plays 175, 180, and I've had kick and putts a number of times, especially from the wedge distance. This is probably the hole that I birdie the most often, but simply because it is the easiest hole on the golf course from the men's tees. But from the PGA, from the back tees, 230 yards, to me, it's as hard as any hole on the golf course.
Oof. There we go. Okay, which hole you want to look at next?
So the next is I want to go to the back 9 and take a look at hole number 10.
Okay.
And for those of us who play BethPage Black, and for the new people who play, sometimes they start and they go, this is not as hard as I thought it was going to be. Well, when the back 9 shows up, you're going to see some of the most difficult holes in golf, really anywhere in the country. This was the hole that Corey Pavin couldn't reach the fairway on when the U.S. Open was here. It's going to play over 500 yards with amazing bunkering on both sides of the fairway, but the bunkers on the left are absolute death if you're in them. The greens at BethPage are not as challenging as you may find on some newer courses. That's because it's just so hard tee to green that in the design of the course, they didn't feel a need to make very, very sloping greens. Right. However, the back 9, the greens do start to slope a bit more. And the challenge on 10 is going to be to find that fairway, because if you don't, it's almost a certain bogey unless you get up and down. And it's really where the length of the course really starts to bear its teeth.
Now, you mentioned now you're not playing from the blues anymore. You're playing from the whites there. How long does your drive have to be? How long do you have to be in the air in order to hit the fairway, unlike Pavin a few years back?
Sure. So from the back tees, it's 255, 260 yards to reach the fairway.
That's a carry. Okay. Wow.
That's a carry. From the men's tees, the hole plays around 410, 420. And so you can get it out there. It's still a long iron or a hybrid in for most golfers. But that second shot is so challenging. All the greens are so well trapped in front. There are very, very few holes you can run a ball up on. This green sits on a bit of a perch. If you don't land it on the green, you're not getting on the green. And even if you land it on the green from that distance, holding the green is not so easy either. Just an absolutely great, great, great golf hole.
Nice, nice. Well, it sounds like a lot of matches may turn on this hole, you're saying.
This is the start of the guts of the course. And Colin, I mentioned I'm going to be a marshal on the course. And one hole I do want to talk about is the hole I'm marshaling, which is 13, which is the only par 5 on the back nine. The course plays as a par 70. It plays as a 71 for us mere mortals. The seventh hole will play as a par 4 for them. But this hole is just my favorite hole on the golf course.
All right.
It is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful par 5. Some of the changes to the course were made on this hole. For us mortals again, they took out one of the bunkers on the left. You can almost see it when you get to the bunkers on the left. There used to be a bunker there in front of that first one, no longer. They added a deeper bunker. And my friend Andy, who was at the course today, sent me a video of Bryson DeChambeau taking his second shot on this 600-plus yard par 5 and putting it on this tiny, tiny, tiny back-to-front sloping green. And one of the benefits, though, that the pros get that I don't get is there are some stands where if the stands weren't there, you will be in some deep, deep, deep trouble. And that par 5 risk reward, all the matches most likely are going to be going in 13. I can't wait to see who's going to take this par 5 on in 2. I think almost all of them are going to try.
Yeah.
Great golf hole.
Want to ask you this time of year, so late September, what traditionally are the wind conditions like? Obviously, it depends if it's clear out or if it's rainy or if there's storms. But traditionally, on a day, is there a prevailing wind, or is it fairly calm out there?
So I'll tell you, there are times where I feel like the wind's into me on every single hole, but the prevailing winds on the back nine mostly are crosswinds, and
okay.
On 13 it's almost always a crosswind. Fall is not a terribly windy season. The springtime, this spring, Colin, I played in some just crazy difficult conditions, and the wind doesn't seem like it's going to be a factor this week as much as the rain that's in the forecast can be. I don't know. The thoughts may be that may favor the European guys like Lowry and McIlroy, who may thrive in adverse conditions. But the prevailing winds make 13, usually don't impact 13 as much as they impact the next big hole, which is 15. And 15, Colin, 15 is the hole that crosses back onto the other side of the road. And that is perhaps the most famous par 4 that BethPage has. And it is a tremendous uphill all the way par 4. And you can't appreciate how much this hole goes up the hill until you see it for the first time. That fairway is a ribbon. And it's at least, and you can see from the stats there, if you don't hit that fairway, it's at least half a stroke, if not a full stroke. It is tough to get on the green in 2 with the biggest, most perfect drive of your life, simply because you have to hit it so far uphill. And this green has so much slope in it, Colin, so much slope, back to front, like many of the Tillinghast-inspired courses have, that this is going to be a hole that if there's a birdie on this hole this week, it's definitely going to be flipping the score a little bit for one of these guys. And the other thing, Colin, is BethPage is such a long walk. For us mere mortals, I mean, it's a long walk, and half of it is spent looking for your ball and looking for your friend's ball and looking in the fescue and in the rough. But even for these guys, these well-trained athletes, you start to get tired when you reach 15. And the walk up 15, when you're carrying your bag or pushing your push cart, by the time you get to 16, you are tired. And I'm looking forward to 15. 15s where all of the big corporate boxes are. That fairway, the rough off to the right there is lined with all the big wigs who are going to be there, hoping that match is going to make it to 15.
Hopefully it does. Hopefully it does. Hey, want to ask you this. All the rounds you've played there, what is the most number of balls you have lost? Have you lost more than a dozen? What do you think? What can you recall? Or have you let that go? Maybe.
So yeah. There are times where 3 or 4 on a hole will certainly happen, especially when the fescue is up, and especially if you're in like the early spring or the late fall where the sun can be so difficult to see. You can lose ball. I can't tell you how many times where you see exactly where your ball landed and you walk right to it and you look and you simply don't see it. That's how thick the rough is. And there are times when they call it the leaf rule,